Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to do a little bit of a baby shampoo commercial in No More Tears. Today went pretty well considering how horrible the last 2 days have been. I think my conversation with the nurse that was watching Joshua last night was very productive. She took a lot of notes and I told her of my concerns and let her know that I knew, and I think I relayed this to you guys in my scary middle of the night looking like hell video, the concerns that I had when I did research on this facility and how many times the Oregon Health Authority has looked into this place and they're pretty much holding their feet to the fire. Okay, so I'm freaked for my son's safety. I'm freaked because of the way I was treated when I'm trying to, ask about him and his welfare and pretty much interrogated. I think she took some pretty good notes. She was very compassionate, very wonderful woman. Because when we got there today, I tell you what, it wasn't just an about face. It was, what can I do for you? It was a very compassionate, very, I'm so sorry, they were very professional, but they were pretty much kissing my butt. Not that that's what I want. I just want them to be accountable and treat people fairly. I can only imagine the burnout rate in their profession. I'm sure they go into it all starry-eyed, wanting to change the world. And I'm sure the burnout rate is significant. The job that they have to do is daunting, to say the least. But their attitudes were totally different when I got there today, and it was a very productive meeting. When we first got there, Joshua had said, yes, he did want to see us. When we arrived, they came out and they said he had changed his mind. I was a little bit upset at that point, but I kept my cool. We talked to them, we gave them information, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got to get my son out here because I've got this plan I want to put forth because I know he's going to take the bait. And I hate to say it that way, but sometimes that's what it is. You've got to put the bait out there to get them to step up to want to help. Okay, so I'm going to give him something that he's going to want. He needs to see it from me. So that's what I did. I knew more than likely he didn't want to see his dad. And, there are a few reasons for that. And I think really one of the ones when I saw Joshua that was at the forefront and really stood out, he didn't want his father to see him in the condition that he was in. Joshua, when I saw him, I'm trying not to cry here, I rushed over to hug him, and I hugged him so hard and so long. And he hugged me back, but it wasn't my son. And I realized he didn't want anyone to see him in that condition. Well, we sat down, and I'm talking to him. I'm trying to engage him because, I've got this plan that the nurse and I last night kind of worked out. I want to meet him once a week for lunch downtown. I'm going to be meeting him next week. We scheduled a meeting at a restaurant downtown by PSU. I'm going to take him a cell phone, which I know he wants. That way he can contact me. It's going to be a cheap burner phone. It's not going to be that much money if he decides to sell it, if he decides to lose it. But I'm also kind of testing him here. I told him I want to see him every week. I'd love to see him every day, because when he is in his right mind, he is the most delightful kid. He laughs easily. He's friendly. Even in his zombie-like state today, it was yes ma'am, no ma'am, I love you. He was very polite. But I was really confused because I had never seen Joshua in the state that I saw him in today. And I was worried. I was worried that the meth had gotten to him so badly that he was forever damaged. So there was a point where he got up to go to the restroom, and I walked over in tears to the workers and said, "That's not my son. That's not my son." And they let me know that the medication that they had put him on was very strong, and it was very sedating. Not only that, but he was coming off of a meth high, and generally they want to sleep for 3 or 4 days. But this medication, this antipsychotic they had him on, pretty much made him a zombie. And I really can't blame Joshua for wanting to fight the medication, because if I had to live the way that I saw my son today, it's not anything that I would want to do. The conversation I had with the nurse last night, she took great notes. The caseworker was looking through them, and I could tell he saw exactly what I said, and he knew exactly what I knew, that this facility is under some pretty heavy scrutiny from the Oregon Health Authority, as they should be. They're charged with taking care of our family members. They can't take care of themselves. And to put him in a subpar situation, like the old institutions, days of old, would be totally unacceptable. And when I read about the safety concerns and the deaths and the different situations, I was legitimately concerned. They saw that in me today. They also saw that even though I'm unwilling to back down in my stance, my strong stance of supporting my son and wanting him to receive the best care that we can get him, I am willing to work with them. I'm not a bitch. Excuse my language, but I can be. If you push my buttons, you're going to get pushed back. But I am very willing to work with anyone that's willing to work with us. And I think they saw that. So when Joshua came out, and he was, oh my gosh, what the heck? Things falling from nowhere. He was a zombie. And I could not get him to engage with me. He didn't want to see his dad. He didn't want his dad seeing him that way, is what I think. I used ask him if he'll come and see me alone so I can talk to him about a cell phone and talk to him about setting up a lunch meeting once a week. I would love to be able to see my son once a week. I don't know why, and I could kick myself for not thinking of this earlier. But I tell you, the woman that I spoke with last night was just, she had so many wonderful ideas. Things that, when you're in the heat of the moment, things can slip by you. And I don't know why I hadn't thought of setting up regular meetings with Joshua downtown and taking him to lunch. Well, I guess one would be the fact that he is very difficult to find, and I have bought in the past multiple cell phones that have all been sold or stolen. So what we came up with, Joshua comes out, I give him a huge hug, I'm crying, I'm happy to see my boy. Then I'm looking at him and I say, "Joshua, let's try to get a shower in while you're here, okay?" And he kind of snickered a little, but he was still very, what is the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. He was just very he was flat. He was zombie-like. We talked and I tried to engage him, and it wasn't happening. So when I talked to the caseworkers, they let me know, I went up, I said, that's not my son. That's not my son. My son is happy. He's gregarious. He is very sociable. He laughs easily. He has a smile that can light the world. And one of my friends on Facebook today, and I don't know why I didn't put this together earlier, but it makes sense. She has come in contact with him, and with where she used to work, everything sort of fell into place. And her comment was so gracious and so heartwarming. It made me realize that, my son, he has such great qualities, but mental illness is stealing them from him. So to get to the plan is meeting with him once a week. I will take him the cell phone. I'm going to have lunch with him once a week. This isn't only going to be a plan to try to give him an incentive to work toward that next goal and work toward the goal after that. And what my plan is right now, we're going to meet for a month every week, have lunch. I'm going to get him his cell phone. I'm going to ask him to call me several times a week and keep in connection. The medication that he was on, it was scary. He just wasn't engaging. That wasn't my son. When they let me know it was the medication, my wheels start turning. How can I get my son to engage? I need to see that my son is in there. So I pulled out pictures of Karma. Do you want to see Karma? Because he loves Karma. I saw a little bit of a smile, and when he saw her pictures, I saw a little bit of a light in his eyes and a little smile. Wow, Mom, she's gotten bigger. I showed him Martini. I showed him his brothers and his sisters. I think one of the most touching moments for me as a mom, I'm trying to fill him in on family happenings. And when I let him know that his nephew is now in pre-med in college, he lit up. And he was like, what? He's that old? Oh my gosh. He sparked. He started to come to life. I let him know about his brothers and sisters, the ones that he asked about. And little by little, Joshua started to appear. I never got to see the full picture of my son because of the medication he was on is so sedating. That's just not possible at this moment. But as I went on, I let him know about my surgeries. I'm trying to think of anything to engage him and make him feel part of the family again. And when I told him about my surgeries, I was shocked at his response because of how flat he had been since I had seen him. He turned and he looked at me and he had tears in his eyes and he said, Mom, I'm so sorry. And it wasn't that I was looking for him to give me sympathy. I was trying to find some way to reconnect with this child that is so sedated. I'm surprised he knew his own name. The caseworkers were very cordial. They were actually more than cordial. They were very helpful today because they knew that I came in armed to the teeth. They were very cordial. They were very helpful, and they gave me some very helpful tips. One, I'm not sure why I didn't know and why it never really came about, but I think one of the most helpful things that I came away with was every time that a police officer calls me and makes contact, I need to call the Multnomah County Crisis Line and let them know that I have a welfare concern regarding my son. That way we're getting documentation into the system that I'm going to be able to take to the court and say, look, I'm worried about my boy. I'm worried about my son. You know, they see him and people on the street, they see a 25-year-old, homeless, unshaven, stinky man. I look at him. I remember the day he was born. I remember my husband cutting his cord. I remember our pastor having to take him out of the arms of his birth mother, and her pain and her tears and her breaking down. But she also knew she made the right decision. I remember bringing him home. I remember the kid that would climb out of the second-story window onto the roof to get out when he was 18 months old to play with his brothers and sisters. You know, those are the memories I have of him. I think I replaced those. He was a very difficult child, as I said, to raise because of his illnesses that we didn't know about. We didn't know. They didn't screen for autism when he was a baby. You know, he's 25. That screening didn't become mainstream until several years after his birth. And I told them of our struggles, and I really let them know, and they were able to see the face of parents that love their son and want the best. And when they saw that, they were much more willing to give us the information, or me at that point, because my husband had left the room. They were more willing to give me the information that I need to be able to help Joshua. So here's the plan. I may have said it in this video before, and if I had, please excuse me. Realize that I have 10 million thoughts a second going through my mind regarding this situation. And now I forgot what I was going to say. The life of me. I think I was talking about the plan to get Joshua to participate in his own mental health care. It's very difficult. As many of you know, when you have a child that's drug addicted, a family member, a friend, a neighbor that's drug addicted, you know the problems. Okay, so we're going to couple drug addiction to multiple mental illnesses. We have a very complex situation here. And, you know, I'm trying to think of the best way possible to get him to participate. So we're going to be meeting once a week. Hopefully, that's the plan. I may get him a burner phone. And if he meets me every week for a month, then we're going to up the ante. And little by little, what we're going to attempt to do is wean him off, bring him back into reality, bring him back, not really into the family life, because I realize at this point he's much too dangerous for that to happen, but to bring him in to feel that he is loved, that he's cared about. Because there is not a day that goes by that I don't miss my son. There's not a day that goes by that I don't love him. So I think we're on the right track. I want to thank each and every one of you for the wonderful comments, the outpouring of love, the concern, the compassion that you've shown not only my family, but my son. He's not a throwaway. Joshua did not ask to be born with these illnesses. And that's what a lot of people forget. These kids did not ask to be born with these illnesses. His meth use is a sign of self-medicating. I see that. He sees it as a way to stay awake so his belongings aren't stolen. I can see his point. I have to change my thinking as a mom to try and start thinking not really exactly like him, but as close to that as I can get. I need to imagine myself in that situation and what I would want. That's why I pulled out the pictures of Karma, which just lit his whole heart, and Martini, and I told him stories of his brothers and his sisters, and I told him about his nephew being in college and in pre-med, and he was just over the moon. I want to bring him back into the family fold, not into the family home. As I said, that's too dangerous, but I want him to feel connected. I want that connection there. I want to see that smile. I don't want to see the flatness that I saw today. That's not Joshua. And those of you that know my son, you know that's not Joshua. You know his smile. You know his laugh. You know the twinkle in his eye. You know how polite he is and how wonderful he can be. Until his switch gets flipped and he wigs out. All in all, I think today went really, really well. I'm very encouraged. I'm going to be anticipating seeing him this next week, and I really do hope that he shows up, because that's going to show me that he's willing. Yes, I'm bribing him a little bit, and we never have bribed our children. But when you have a child in this sort of a circumstance with mental illness and drug addiction and everything happening, you have to sort of think out of your usual box, your usual boundaries. Boundaries for Joshua have always been different. We always tried to hold him to the same boundaries as the other children, but that was impossible because he wasn't the other children. He was much more sick. I think it went well. I'm encouraged. I really hope that this facility gets their act together. I'm very disappointed in everything that I read. So once again, everyone, thank you so very much. I will keep you updated. I'll let you know when I see my son. Hopefully I can get some pictures. The way he looked today, I wasn't going to take a picture of him because for me it would be too difficult to have to see again. But all in all, I think we may be onto something here with this incentive plan. The problem with me is going to be, what's the next incentive if he meets this? If he meets meeting with me weekly and he keeps the phone, what am I going to do next? I'm kind of worried about that one. You know, it's hard. I don't want, like I said, I don't even feel like a throwaway, but at the same time, I don't want to buy things that I know that are going to be stolen or sold for meth. That's just not helping anyone. That at that point, that becomes enabling, and we will not enable our children. That's just not going to happen. It was a good day. No more tears. For now. Let's hope for a while, because I tell you, it's been rough. It's been a rough few days. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Thank you so much for your love, for your concern, for your comments, for your compassion. And I want to give a very special thanks to the woman that knows my son, that left the remarkable comment. I had no idea she knew him, but from where she works, it makes sense now. She's the one that I got my karma from. And I can't wait to tell Joshua, because he will be over the moon. So thank you. I'm not going to mention your name. You know who you are. You made my day. You all made my day. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please come back. And I really want you to know how much it means to me that you're willing to take a part of your day to listen to the trials and tribulations. Oh my gosh, it feels like a soap opera that we're living. But you guys sort of restored my faith. And for that, I can never thank you enough. Happy New Year. I hope you all are well, happy, and prosperous in 2019. And I hope the same for my son. We'll see you soon. Peace out as always. Take care. Hit that notification bell and subscribe. And if you have any additional comments, please comment. And please comment on my YouTube channel so other viewers can see your ideas and the things you have to say, because in encouraging me, you're encouraging them as well. And I think encouragement and compassion in this world is something that is unfortunately seen far too seldom. And it's just such a shame. No one has compassion on each other these days. And I can see why. There's so much division. And it really shouldn't be that way. We should be thinking of the well-being of our nation, the well-being of our citizens, the well-being of our families, our neighbors, our friends, our family, of which I consider you part of my friends and my family. So thank you. Thank you for making my year end on an up note by knowing that you care enough to let me know you care about my son. I will see you soon. Stay safe. Until later, guys. And it's still recording. You know, that's the problem with this camera. I don't have the buttons. I'm trying to figure out where the heck they are. I think I have it. We'll see. Hasta luego.